want to talk a little bit about just the Office of Global Learning so everyone knows a little bit more about us and what we do. So my office brings together both our international services team, who supports our international students and scholars on immigration. Through immigration advising, we do events, orientations like this one. We even have an international graduation reception that the team supports. And the other part of our office, the Office of Global Learning, we have our education abroad team who supports students that want to study abroad. So for a short term over a winter or a summer, a semester, or even a year. Beyond these two primary teams in our office, there are a few other office activities that are really important to my boss, who is our Vice Provost for International Affairs. Her name is Professor Wendy Wolford. You'll have a chance to meet Wendy next week. She'll be on to provide a welcome. The same thing with my colleague, Gustavo Flores Macias, who is our Associate Vice Provost for International Affairs. The three of us work together a lot on issues of international student and scholar inclusion. So really wanted to make sure that all of you feel welcome to Cornell. Your presence here is so important to us. And so we do everything that we can to get you the resources and support that you need to be successful and have a fulfilling experience. To do some of that, we focus on programming for international students like all of you. So one good example coming up in November, we're going to have our annual Thanksgiving dinner. We've been doing that for decades now, where hundreds and hundreds of international students and other community members will come together on campus in the second to the last week of November, when many domestic students will leave campus and they'll go and spend time with family, quite traditional in the United States. Many people aren't able to do that, and so we kind of stay here and have a party. So we have this big Thanksgiving dinner at one of the residence halls. It's a great time. Like I said, we also do our international student graduation reception, which I know for many of you is still a ways off. But again, it's just a fantastic opportunity to celebrate our international students, everything that you've done, your accomplishments, and everything that you've brought to campus with your perspectives and your ways of seeing the world. We'll also do things like having just regular group meetings with international students, just to check in, see how people are doing. Over the last couple of years, there have been a lot of changes in terms of US immigration. So we'd bring international students together just to check in, answer questions. Of course, with the pandemic, the same thing. We'll bring people together. You have a chance to, ask questions and just kind of talk about how we're doing and how we can support you better. For all of those kinds of things, we'll be sure to send you promotion throughout the semester. We have a couple of ways to do it. We'll get you more information soon, but we have a Facebook page. We also have a listserv that all of you are automatically a part of, just because you're international students. That way we're able to get out important immigration information, but also information on these kinds of events. And we've more recently started a monthly newsletter that people have really liked, that gives us an opportunity to, again, talk about important immigration issues, also events that are coming up. And more, we're really trying to highlight international students, international scholars, and Cornell staff and faculty that support international students and scholars. So, little pieces to learn more about different members of the community so that we all feel more connected. So more to come on all of those soon. We also do a lot of collaboration with different offices on campus. So with Cornell Health, the campus residence halls, for undergraduates, the International Student Union, who you'll have a chance to meet over the next couple of days. Many different people around campus come together to, again, support our international student and scholar population. And so you'll see my office, the Office of Global Learning, doing a lot to work with those organizations to, again, support you and make you feel welcome. So with that said, please do stay in touch with the Office of Global Learning. you'll see more of me, you'll see more of my colleague Dick Shing, and others from my office and beyond throughout these synchronous sessions, and then also through the content for Prepare next week as well. I really hope that Prepare is helpful for you, and that it's an encouraging time for you to start this transition to Cornell. I know Prepare is one of the things that international students upon graduation really look back on and remember as being so important, whether because of the social component or just feeling like they had a community and they had an opportunity to, learn more about campus resources. So I want to go just very quickly through our schedule. We have a couple of things that I want to walk through. Number one, again, if people have, if you're okay with turning on your video, that would be great. I have my gallery view. We see a bunch of you. That's fantastic. So excited to see so many of you. So do please turn on your video if you're okay with that. What I want to do is, let's see, talk about our schedule. So just as a reminder for everyone, right now we have both virtual only participants on this Zoom, and then we also have people that will be with us in person next week. Last night, I sent out to all people that will be participating in the in-person Prepare. We will be having a session after this one, so at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, a session so that in-person people that have questions about arrival, some of the logistics around arrival, getting to the campus residence halls, getting your COVID test, maybe getting vaccinated. I sent that out to all the in-person arrival people. And so we'll have a chance in about 2 hours to talk through some of those questions. So I'll stay on longer. One thing I just want to say to everyone, both the in-person and the virtual participants, the COVID Delta variant, of course, is, causing many issues, many problems around the world. It's obviously just so very unfortunate, that certain parts of the world really felt like we were kind of coming out of things, the United States being one of them, but there continues to be struggles. What that's meant for Cornell and specifically Prepare is that, we're having to adapt to things, maybe bring back rules and regulations that we had for a little while at least been relaxed. But, in the interest of everyone's health and safety, we're bringing those rules back in until we're sure that we're going to be okay going forward. Yesterday afternoon in Ithaca time, I sent out a note to all international students, as well as my boss, Wendy Wolford. We were both on that note, basically just reaffirming that we will be having in-person class in Cornell, like we did this last year. We look forward to everyone returning, and we're confident in our ability to keep Cornell students healthy and safe. And that's critical. I don't know how closely you were following, but Cornell just did an amazing job this entire last year in terms of testing and keeping people healthy and safe. We received national attention for it. We really stood out in terms of US universities in our ability to do just that. So do feel confident, do plan to arrive and follow all the rules, because that's what we're going to need to do as a community to get through what we're going through right now. So I want to jump over to the schedule just really quickly before we move to the next segment. So I'm going to share my screen, and you all should be able to see our Office of Global Learning International Services webpage. So here you go. This is a site that you maybe already are very used to, but you'll get used to using more and more. From here, you can find the Prepare schedule by going to Life at Cornell and Prepare. And then scrolling down, Prepare schedule, click on this link. And then you can go through day by day to see the different things that we'll be doing for Prepare. So this schedule follows very closely what we'll do for in-person Prepare. Remember that for people that are joining virtually, we'll be recording our sessions. So just like this one, as well as our in-person sessions, we'll be recording those as well. And we'll make those recordings available for all of the virtual students next week, as soon after the session as possible. So you'll be able to watch the sessions and see, the different things that we're learning, the different speakers that visited us. So I'm not going to take the time right now to walk through everything, but just as a reminder, we have Tuesday and Wednesday, today and tomorrow, which will be synchronous sessions. Then we'll have people that will start arriving for in-person Prepare. Some that will arrive the 14th. That's not part of Prepare. The Prepare arrival is August 15th and 16th, but some students will be arriving to the campus housing, the residence halls before that. And so the 15th and 16th will be arrival. We'll have time for people to get tested and get their tests back. And then Tuesday is when in-person Prepare is going to begin. So Tuesday evening for dinner, and we'll be going through Wednesday and all the way through Thursday. And on Thursday in the evening, students will really join with the rest of their arriving students to Cornell. So make sure to take some time and look through the schedule. And again, for people that will be part of the in-person Prepare that have questions on arrival logistics, I'll stay on at the end to be able to talk through those. So at 10:30 Eastern time, I'll stay on, and people that have questions on the information that I sent earlier this morning, I'll be happy to walk you through those. So let's see. So it looks like we are ready for our next segment, which is going to be a student panel. And so we have a chance to hear from past Cornell students, some that maybe have participated in Prepare, but all international students, to give you some insight on what life will be like here in Cornell, in Ithaca, and in the United States. So Rebecca, are you out there?
Sorry, I was muted. I'm here.
Oh, hey, Rebecca, do you want to try that again? Let me see if I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh.
No?
There we go. Yes, Rebecca, I hear you now just fine. That was probably on my side. So great. So Rebecca, is it okay if I turn it over to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Rebecca DeLubeck, and I'm an Education Abroad Advisor in the Office of Global Learning. So my main role in the Office of Global Learning is to advise undergraduate students on study abroad. Just so you know, lots of international students study abroad. So when you're getting to your sophomore, junior year, come see us to talk about potential semester, year, or short programs. Okay, so let's get started to the panel. We have 3 panelists that we're going to be speaking with today. Are panelists all here? Can you take off or can you show us your video? Let's see. Okay, Julie. We have a big group here. So panelists, if you can unmute yourselves and tell us your name, your home country, and what you're studying at Cornell.
Hi, I can start. I'm Julie Selsigard, and I am from Oslo, Norway, and I'm studying industrial and labor relations. Nice to meet you guys.
Thanks, Julie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rizzo. I'm from Uzbekistan, and I just got my degree in engineering physics, and I'm studying CS now for Master of Engineering.
Thanks, Rizzo.
Hi, my name is Pei Wen. I am from China, and I am studying chemistry.
Thanks so much, Pei Wen. Okay, so just to let you guys know, we have a list of questions all around sort of cultural adjustment, what it's like coming from a country to the US, especially as a student. If you have questions at the end that we don't get to, you can put them in the chat and we'll try to answer some of them. But there's also lots of opportunities to get your questions answered. You can stay on for Brandon's Q&A. this morning. And then there's also mentor sessions where you can speak with a small group about other questions. So feel free to ask. You have lots of resources to help get your questions answered. So we're going to hop into some questions. So panelists, don't feel like you all have to answer every question. Just if something resonates with you, you can tell us your thoughts around it. We do have a lot of questions, so we're going to try not to spend too much time on just a few. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. So our first question is, what is the best way to familiarize yourself with American culture? This might be a good question for every panelist to answer if everyone feels like they have something to say. So go ahead. Who wants to go first?
I would say, to a certain extent, I would say those random movies that you would see about like that were set in America. Like I remember when I came here the first time, I would just walk around in like the most random settings, and I would be like, oh, this is just like in the movies, like water fountains in schools or something, like something as small as that. It depends on the culture, of course. Like it depends on where you're coming from, like what's going to be different and what's going to be similar. I would personally recommend watching a few YouTube videos. That's what I did back when I was a pre-frosh, watching a few YouTube videos of someone from your culture who moved to America or who's visiting America, and they will talk, because they will always, kind of focus on things that are different, that would be surprising for you. And that's where I personally learned quite a lot about just the basics of like American culture and behavior here, things like tipping and all the other things.
I think YouTube is definitely a good way to get adjusted to like American culture. I also use YouTube. Like you can look up any question you have, and then there's so many different YouTube videos. And also just watching vloggers that are like American as well, because it's a little bit more personal and like their everyday life than like a movie, even though that I think is also a cool idea. And one way that I kind of like to have fun with it is seeing kind of what's fashionable or trending in the new countries, and then like having fun with finding what's like in right now in terms of like fashion and yeah.
I think for me, it helps to go off of like your own habits your own hobbies. So for me, I really enjoyed reading. So I would, like, I remember when I was younger, my mom would help me buy some books from like for American young adults. And I really enjoyed reading those. And I also think that music is a great way to learn about the culture. You can look up some playlists online of different genres, or maybe some pop music in American culture, so that maybe when you arrive, you will recognize some of the things that other people are listening to. So you'll have some mutual topics.
Thanks, guys. Those were all such great answers. I think I might have to steal some of those for study abroad advice, because it's great. It's great advice for students going like to other countries as well. Thanks so much. Okay, let's see. This is kind of in line a little bit with what we were talking about before. Is there any distinctive trick to help students get involved in the community, or maybe anything that you did personally to help you get involved in the community at Cornell?
I would say my personal recommendation is explore. Like pretty much your entire freshman year usually, is there for you to explore and to try new things. And even after this, you can always join new things. Don't overload yourself. But for example, we have PEs and you have to take 2 semesters of PEs. I don't know if that's still the case with the whole COVID situation, but like there are so many fun things you can do. Like you can explore, like there's like golfing, like pretty much anything that you would want to try. I would personally recommend doing clubs too, just, signing up. There's going to be Club Fest, so look forward to that and make sure you go. Just explore random things, kind of quit your comfort zone, try out new things. You don't have to, if you do something, if you come to like a couple sessions, it doesn't mean, usually that you have to like stick to it. So don't be afraid. Yeah.
I think that maybe some advice I have that kind of relates to that is there's a lot of activities like during orientation or during like Club Fest to like a lot of clubs that you're kind of overloaded with all the new information, and there's a lot of different opportunities for you to get involved with the community, but I think the advice is to remember to kind of like be true to yourself and pick what you really are interested in, to like for who to talk with clubs or what event to go to, so you can really meet people that you will really get along with, like truly.
I definitely agree that you have to kind of know yourself and be selective, because it can be quite overwhelming when there are so many different options to choose from. But I think sometimes also you just have to be kind of open to new possibilities or take a risk for something you've never tried before, and like put yourself out there and keep an open mind on new things. I think sometimes there can be a lot of good surprises.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Those are some great tips. And Club Fest is definitely something everyone should try to check out. It's basically a bunch of clubs will table. I'm not sure what it's going to look like this year. It might be a little different than the past, but basically you can find out what clubs are on campus. You can join their email list and pick and choose what resonates with you. But thanks everyone. Those were great ideas. So here's another question that we kind of talked a little bit with the overwhelm. Did any of you experience culture shock when coming to the US? And what were some tips for overcoming that shock? If you're not familiar with what culture shock is, it's basically, it happens a lot when people travel, when students go abroad, when students come here, and it's basically that experience of overwhelm, just different food, different housing. Sometimes students get really excited and pumped about it. Some students just get really overwhelmed, and it's not always the easiest thing to get through, but obviously we're here to help you with it, and let's hear from our panelists what they did to get over it. If they experienced it, maybe they were very comfortable when they first came.
I do believe I experienced some culture shock. I came to the US like actually for high school, so not during college, but I remember that one of like my biggest shock was how kind of there's so much emphasis on being, which I think is like a good thing, but to be confident and like speak up like in the US more than where I've like lived before. It's people are very outspoken, and I remember having to adjust to like there were a lot of class presentations and you had to kind of speak up more and always like be raising your hand in class. And a way that I adjusted to it was I participated, or I did cheerleading. So it's kind of the opposite. I'm kind of more naturally shyer, and it was a little bit out of my comfort zone to do the cheerleading, but in the US. But I knew that I liked to do some dancing from beforehand. So kind of like doing something that you like to do, but also getting out of your comfort zone. I think it can help you build, get adjusted to the new culture.
Thank you.
I would say, I mean, I definitely did have when I came here. Again, like it depends, like things that some things you're gonna be like more shocked about than the others, like depending on your culture and depending on your personality too. I would say what I liked about the American culture, at least from my personal experience, is I feel like here there's there are a lot of people here at Cornell. Like I've never seen that many people ever in my life before. And it's just all about, you know, being kind of to a certain extent, you know, being yourself. And if you like, don't be worried. For example, you know, you might have problem making friends or like meeting people. Like this is a huge school and you will find people. Just explore. Like don't be afraid to explore. And then what helped me, what I did freshman year was I had a couple of American friends here, and I would just, you know, randomly ask them questions about like American culture. Like I'd be like, hey, is it normal if people, like, do people do this here? Do people do that here? Is it normal? Is this weird? Like something like this. That helped me a lot too.
Nice, thanks.
I guess what helped me a lot was to kind of adjust my expectations in a way, or just to come in with the mindset that certain ways that I am used to doing things is not, it's not what I should assume for everyone to be doing things, or or I guess just to be open to having differences, and that like your own ways may be different from others.
Thank you. Those are all great answers. Thanks, guys. So this question may be a little bit for me, but what resources are there on campus if you're having a hard time adjusting and want to talk to someone? Do any of our panelists want to weigh in there?
So what I would recommend, and this is more on the academic side, but I really want to recommend the Learning Strategy Center as a resource for any kind of help. Like maybe it doesn't have to be, you don't have to. So sorry, to give some context. So the Learning Strategy Center has like many peer tutors who are undergraduates that have taken a certain course and are serving as like peer tutors, mentors to students who are also in the class. And I think it's a really great resource because you don't have to come in with a specific question. You can also ask about, you know, study skills, or just to chat about the class. And I think it's a great way to just talk to someone about something you're going through, because they have also gone through the same experience. So I think that would be helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great tip. Oh, in the chat, we also have the Night Writing Institute for support with papers. Thank you. Okay, another thing that I was thinking about too is if you just really want to talk to someone, maybe it's not academic, maybe it's more personal, is that Cornell Health has a lot of great resources. They have, you know, one-on-one counseling, they have drop-in counseling. So there's a lot of resources there if you just need to talk to someone. Yeah. Oh, and then we also have a couple other things coming in the chat. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so I'm going to go to our next question, which is a really important question, which isn't always easy to answer. But what's the best way for an international student to make friends at Cornell?
I think maybe one way that an international student can make friends at Cornell is, well, one big way I found friends is meeting other international students. I think that even if we're like not from the like exact same place or anything, we're kind of going through the same the same journey. So it's like easy to relate on that part and adjusting to the US culture and kind of talking about it. And then it's also interesting to like hear other people's stories and then about like their different cultures as well. So I think definitely meeting other international students has been a big way that I found friends.
Maybe coming to the Thanksgiving dinner. Yay. Little plug there.
I would say, yeah, I'm just gonna repeat what I said earlier. Like, don't be afraid to explore and try to like quit your comfort zone. Try something new. Doesn't even have to be a club. Um, there will be like random events on campus. If you hear of one, if it's like something fun, why not go? Why not like check it out? I would also recommend personally like trying to not spend much time in your room. Like even if it's something that you're doing on your own, like studying, I would just recommend, I don't know, go to the library. Like that made me feel more, like I was more connected to campus and more connected to the community.
Oh, that's great. Thanks.
Sorry. I guess just a short advice might be also to like be willing to take some risks at times. Sometimes like maybe just go the extra step of initiating a new conversation with someone next to you, and maybe it is not the most comfortable or the most easy thing to do, but it can also help you find a friendship.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a fun one. Are there any actions that may seem normal for people from other cultures, but may be considered rude or inappropriate in the US? That one I'm very interested in knowing.
I'm not sure if I don't think this is rude or inappropriate at all. Like, but something that I did notice is different is that when they say like, "How are you doing?" I would like always answer, but I think it's just saying a way to say hello. So that was like a bit confusing. Yeah, when I was saying like, "Oh, I'm doing well. How are you?" and then they didn't answer anything.
Yep. It's like a continuum of a hello. Hey, how are you doing?
It's hard to think of, like I personally am struggling right now to think of an example, because more of like, I would say there are more examples of the other way around, something that would be weird or inappropriate in the culture that I come from, but is like fine here.
You
Like
can
for
talk
example,
about that too. Yeah.
yeah, like professors here, like a lot of them are just very chill. Like for example, they would just ask you, and a lot of them here actually prefer to just for people to call them by their first name, which is something that is kind of unheard of back home. And I explicitly remember freshman year, one of my professors, I like asked her some question and I referred to her by her last name, like professor, and then her last name. And then she was like, "Oh no, just call me by my first name. Call me Lana." And I was like, "No." And then I just kept calling her that. But like it took me some time to realize that it is really fine here, especially if someone like for example, not all professors would be okay with it. So as a safety rule, I would always refer to them by their last name. And then if they ask or if they mention that they're fine with people referring to them by their first name, then yeah. The only example I can think of, like the other is tipping. Like, tipping, big thing here, and like people kind of expect you to tip. Can't think of anything else that would be like rude here, but normal back home.
Okay, we got a comment in the chat. Says some cultural differences might be directness, like if it's accessible to comment on someone's appearance, ask someone how old they are. Yeah, that's pretty common in the US. Usually people don't really hold back. Usually it is on the positive side though, but like, oh, I like your whatever, or yeah, not shy about that. Ages, it's a little different. I think the older you get, the less people want you to ask how old you are. But I think when you're all younger, yeah. Oh, someone wants to know a little bit more about tipping. Does anyone want to tell us about what tipping culture is like in the US?
So I can start. When you go to like a restaurant here, you get your like you eat your meal, you get your final price. This usually isn't the price that you pay. because on top of that, they expect you to tip usually like around 15% is like the average expected tipping. You can obviously change it depending, if the service was really good or the service was really bad. But here, like, it is a big thing. So people like usually expect to tip if they serve you. So for example, like now during quarantine, I would say a lot of restaurants just do takeouts. So in that case, you don't have to tip, even though they still ask sometimes. And yeah, like here people just like, it will be weird, or some people just like think it's rude to not tip at all. But a lot of restaurants, what I know they do is, if it's like 6 or more people, like if it's a big group of people, they include tipping in their in the final price. So like that's also something to watch out for. So sometimes the tipping could actually be included in the final price, and then you don't have to tip on top of that.
Mhm.
And yes, as Laura said, people in food service here, like the salaries are pretty low, and the tip goes to show them, to express your gratitude for the service.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, thanks for explaining that. That's helpful. Yeah, and you'll probably see when you start ordering food or going to restaurants, it will actually say on your receipt, how much do you want to tip? And it will give you like a couple prices of what the tip would be, depending on the percentage that you want to tip. Yeah. What were we talking about?
Suggestion I received from a
Oh.
friend about waving at waiters. So that's something that maybe in my culture, it's, I guess, pretty common to like get their attention, but maybe best not to here.
Mhm. So another question, kind of in the same lines, but a little bit more for communication, is how do you address people in an email? What is emailing etiquette like? How do you use a salutation? Do you address people as dear or hi or hello? What seems to be appropriate for email?
I just address people, again, if it's a professor, I usually do like address them, as I said, by their last name. Like in the email, I would just say hi and then their name. Yeah, I would say most of the time, like in the official communication, I refer to them by their name, and then in real life, I also refer to them by their name.
I also usually do the same with professors. So hi, professor, and same with in real life.
Mhm.
Same here, like a good morning or a good afternoon or a hi, something like this. And then the professor's last name, professor something.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, email is fairly informal. One good rule of thumb that I use in my professional work is that if you receive a message and it says dear, usually I will use dear. If they say hi, I'll use hi. So I'll just kind of try to replicate what sort of level of formality they're expecting from our conversation. That's in a professional capacity. It's different in academics, but I think it's a little bit less formal. But if you're not sure, I'd say just see how the other person addressed you and just go from there, because that's easy to think of. Don't have to put too much thought into it. But thanks, guys. So I have another question about activities on campus. Where may one find resources on multicultural activities on campus?
I guess Office of Global Learning would definitely have some information on their website. Like if you're talking about clubs, again, I think all I can think of is like Club Fest and exploring there. Or maybe just if you wonder if a certain club here, like if people do certain thing here, you just type out the activity name or whatever club, Cornell, in Google and see if they have it. Yeah.
I guess I would recommend signing up for newsletters and like departments that you're interested in. Like maybe the Naudi Center for International Studies, or I think they sign up at some point for the South Asia program newsletter. So often they will send out emails about their upcoming events and lectures. And these are like really cool opportunities to hear about different speakers. And also there are some funding opportunities or fellowship opportunities that also can be of interest.
There's the International Students Union, which is like an umbrella organization, and it's a club made up of a bunch of students from different places. So it's a really nice resource for talking with people who might, as I was kind of saying earlier, might be from different places, but also going through similar things to each other. And also, I think maybe ISU might know many other different student organizations, which is a little bit more like specific to where you're from. Like I think JUSAF or Japanese like student club, or like where you come from, there might be a club that's like a little bit more specific, which might be a nice resource to meet people who are from the same place, and also ISU for people who are from different places and it's going through similar things.
Thanks, guys. Those are some great tips. We've got a couple of things coming into the chat, so make sure you guys are keeping an eye on that too. A lot of good resources coming through there too. Okay, so now we're talking more about you living in the U.S. And working. I don't know if I can talk about that a little bit, but if you guys ever are thinking about working, maybe Rizzo, since you're a grad student, maybe you have some thoughts on this. But first of all, what do you miss most about home while you're at Cornell?
I'd say food. Like, it wasn't really a thing the first couple of years, but I feel like as more time passes, kind of the food here, you know, kind of get used to it. Or maybe it's because I don't know if it's also because of quarantine, and I've been living in College Town since last year, so like, you know, kind of getting tired of the same place here. Like we have a lot of Turkish food back home, and we have this one really good Turkish place that I love going to ever since I was a kid. And like sometimes I have those waves of nostalgia where I just want something from there, or like something similar to that food.
I guess I would say what I miss most is kind of being in the city, and because I grew up in like a very big city, and Ithaca is more, you know, has a lot of like natural beauty and outdoor scenes, but it is a good distance from New York City. But I think like I also like exploring the outdoors, and I enjoy hiking as well. But I think sometimes I do miss the kind of like transportation and city sceneries sometimes.
I think something that I miss, is that, well, when I came to the US, I realized that there's quite a culture of everywhere. People don't really walk as much to like places, at least as they do in Norway, like emphasis to walk like a long distance like outdoors. So I kind of miss that a little bit. But that being said, Cornell has like beautiful nature, and if you really want to go hiking or walking, there's so many like.
Oh, Julie, are you still with us? I think you froze. think we lost you. But yeah, just to kind of echo that thought, there's some beautiful walking trails on Cornell's campus and in the surrounding areas. There's a beautiful hike into called Taganic, which is a big waterfall. And I think that will be a piece of the Prepare programming for in person. But yeah. Julie, are you with us still?
Oh,
Okay,
I
maybe.
think I'm back.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Did you want to finish your thought?
Yes, I'm not sure exactly where I stopped.
You're talking about walking on, like walking in Ithaca and hiking and.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was pretty much what I wanted to say, that there is still opportunities for walking and going around in the nature, if that is what you like. But yeah, I miss the part about it, yeah, being so normal to like walk to like your destination, I guess.
Mhm. Thanks, everyone. Those are some great responses. So I have one more question, and then maybe we'll see if we can get some questions from the chat. But how do students continue to stay in the US after graduating? And is it hard to get a job in the US?
So as an international student, probably most of you here are on F1 visa. And as you've probably been told, you're not allowed to work during your study here unless it's on campus. And after you graduate, so you can do internships here. There's a thing called optional practical training, I believe. That's what it deciphers as. And curriculum practical training, basically OPT/CPT. This is the thing that allows international students to get experience here for both internships and job. So if you're in general, the general idea, if you find an internship here, for example, for the summer between like, I don't know, sophomore, junior year, something like that, then if it's paid, you usually have to still apply for an OPT. Depending on your major, you might be eligible for CPT if it's like directly related to your major, or I believe if your major requires you to have internship experience, something like this. Definitely look into that. And this is also how you can stay here after you graduate. So you can find a job and have 1 year of OPT before you have to apply for, before you have to have the work visa, which is H-1B. And then I believe if you're in STEM, then you can apply for a 2-year extension. I believe it's 2 years. So definitely look into that.
Yeah,
yes.
you can. I was just going to say, international services can help you guys figure out OPT, learn more about how it works.
Yeah, I would say definitely feel free to email people at Career Services, or go to, they host those international getting a job as an international things every once in a while. I would definitely recommend checking it out. That's where you'll find a lot of valuable information, and that's where you get to ask them the questions you had.
Okay. Rizzo, would you mind talking a little bit about, so you're a grad student, correct? Yeah. Would you mind talking just a little bit briefly about how you went from being an undergraduate to a grad student here?
Sure. I mean, I realized it was more of my thing by, I think, junior year or so. I was originally, I always knew kind of when I came here that I would probably do grad school, even though I wasn't sure. By the time I became kind of a junior/seniors, a big reason for that was that I realized by the second half of my college career that I like computer science kind of more, and I realized that I should have kind of switched my majors early, but it was too late to switch by that time. So I just ended up finishing my major and getting a minor in computer science, just taking more classes and exploring it. And I realized I really enjoy it, and I realized I want to learn more about it. And I felt like this is something that I would potentially want to go into for my future. So thinking about my future career, like I felt more connection with doing coding or like solving this kind of things rather than doing pure physics in my case, like. And I thought that I would want to learn more because there are so many things to learn still, and I felt like I want to learn more. And that's why I started looking. A big decision, I would say, if you want to do grad school, that's the first big decision for yourself, kind of yes or no. And then the next big decision I had to make was if I wanted to get a PhD or if I wanted to get a master's. So PhD, usually lasts like 5 to 6 years on average, and then you get your master's as you do a PhD. And master's is, depending on the school, 1 to 2 years, and there are also different kinds of. There's Master of Science, there's Master of Engineering, which is what I'm doing right now. PhD, I would say PhD is very like more focused on going very deeply into one specific area, and there you also more like you kind of work for your professor, you help them with their research and stuff. So that's more, it feels more, from what I heard, it's more like an actual job, and like there's a lot of stuff. You also have to like do your research too. Yeah, you apply, it's kind of similar to applying to undergrad. You apply, start applying senior year of college. And so you have plenty of time until then. And you have to take usually GRE, which is kind of the same as SAT. I really didn't really find much difference. There's English and math. And then after you do that, you have to write a lot of essays. You have to get recommendation letters. Like it's pretty similar to undergrad, to experience of applying as an undergrad for the undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
And then after this, I would say like a big part of it is choosing schools that you apply to, making sure they have the right program, and maybe talking to people from those schools, or like trying to email professors and just seeing what you're interested in.
Mm-hmm. How did your visa change? Did it change?
Could you say it again?
Your visa, what was that like? Yeah.
So I only had to apply for a new I-20.
Okay.
Because mine expired. I emailed, like I asked the person, my visa is still the same, and she said as long as I don't leave the country, because F1 visa has that thing where after it expires, you know that. So for people from Uzbekistan, it depends on the country. They only give us F1 visa for 1 year. So if 1 year expires, you can still stay in the US usually. It had like its own name that I don't remember. But if you leave the country, you have to reapply for a visa. So if you stay in the US, then you should be fine. Which is pretty similar to what I was told. They told me that I don't need to update my F1 visa, and I get my I-20.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And if that's something you guys are interested in, definitely talk to international services about that process. You're pretty early in the game to be thinking about it now, but any immigration questions can go to international services.
Yeah,
Thanks for going through that. Yeah.
Yeah, just to answer Brian's question about whether on-campus jobs like working in cafeterias or libraries require OPT, CPT, they don't, as far as I know, because again, like if you're an international student, you can still work on campus. I've done that. I stayed here the summer after my sophomore year and the summer after my junior year in Ithaca, and I did work on my research with my professor, and I got paid for that. And you do not need OPT and CPT, so working on campus is fine. Or like if you want to work in cafeteria or library, like you do not need OPT, CPT.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I can just quickly make a note about like what does it feel like to work on campus? I've never had a job that like would be specifically on campus, but again, the kind of work I had was research, and I've also TA'd this past semester. Like research didn't feel much different. It depends on your professor, because like they're going to be your supervisor, so it's the same. And TAing, like everyone has different experiences, but I found it pretty nice because you just get to kind of keep yourself refreshed on the subject, and you just explain the subject to people and you help them solve problems. And it's kind of fun if it's something that you like to, like I was seeing the course that I myself enjoy, and it was fun to like try to solve those problems sometimes for myself just to make sure I can help people.
Thanks. Do either of our other panelists want to weigh in at all about, like, it could even be like, what are your thoughts after your time at Cornell? Are you thinking about staying in the US?
Well, I was gonna say something about like the working as a student, like on campus. The experience with that is it's been really great. I'm working at the cafeteria right now on one of the West Campus cafeterias, and I'm really glad that I joined as a student worker, like for several reasons actually. First, I met like a bunch of my friends from actually working at the cafeteria, even during the COVID time. We're all, like just standing like together in the line. So like for serving food, so we're always just talking and having like fun like together when there is no when there's like no customer. So it's been really great. And another reason is that, which I didn't like expect, but I think is like a really good way that they've kind of set it up, is that for these like dining job, even though it can still you can still like show progress with it on your resume, because you can kind of get promoted to like a student supervisor in the like cafeteria, and then student manager, and you actually do like quite a lot, like you help out with like hiring and everything once you get to manager. So you actually do take on quite a few responsibilities. So even like if you're working at the cafeteria, you kind of are actually showing some progress and proper like skills with it as well. So it's been great to like meet friends, and also great in that way as well.
Awesome, thanks. Okay. Let's see, and I'll just speak really quickly on jobs in the US. I think it really helps if you want to end up staying in the US and working, that you're going to a US institution. I think that's helpful, like in the job search. As far as your visa, it can be a little bit tricky just because it's a little more complicated. Usually you need your employer to sponsor you. But yeah, it's definitely a good thing to talk about with career services, which has a lot of resources for international students as well, which we kind of touched over earlier. But yeah, we have a little bit more time, so let's just keep on seeing what people have in the chat. Here's a question for Rizzo. How did you get involved in doing research with professors over the summer?
Right. So in my case, that was the same. I've been doing research with the same professor since my sophomore fall. And I'm still like, right now, actually, I'm wrapping up like stuff on the research. I'm getting ready to publish a paper. This is a whole separate experience. I would say it's a whole new experience because when I was finishing my freshman year, I realized that I want to do research or get involved in something. And something that I've been fond of ever since I was a kid has been astronomy. It's been my big interest. And I really wanted to get something going on in astronomy department, in the astronomy department. So the way to do this, from what I heard and from my personal experience, is you just go on the website, you go to the department that you're interested in, you kind of skim through professor's research, kind of go into the topic that you're interested in, and you just get all those emails, and you just kind of construct a short email. It should be as short as you can make it, where you quickly talk about yourself and then ask them if they're available for a meeting where you could discuss the possibility of doing research for them. And it's called like cold emailing, and you have to cold email just a bunch of professors And then like I would say this is kind of a tough process because those people are very busy. They usually won't respond to you, so you have to follow up. I also looked up their office hours on their website, and I would just go. So it usually says their office, but it doesn't say their office hours on the website. So I would just randomly go and show up and wait for, like, try every once in a couple of days, I think. Just would walk around the offices and knock and see if they're there and if they're available. And this is kind of similar, I would say, like to job search or like other things. Like you need perseverance. Like don't get discouraged because people will not respond to you. You will send your emails and you'll get no response from those people. You'll have to follow up and you'll get no response too usually. Like they're extremely busy. So just keep trying, keep emailing, keep reaching out. If you, for example, if you took a class, you can take a class for fun if your schedule allows, or like that if you can use it towards your degree requirement in what you're interested in, that it will also helps you. And as a matter of fact, I got my professor that I'm working with right now. I took Astro 101. It's a great class. I recommend it, by the way. I really enjoyed it. And my lab TA, I just bumped into my lab TA at some point in the space sciences building when I was looking for a professor to work with. And then he mentioned that there's this new professor coming here from Princeton and like, you should email him. And then I emailed and he responded within 40 minutes, which was like, wow, like that's crazy. Because that's like crazy fast for a professor. And this is the professor that I'm working with now. So perseverance is very important. Just find what you're interested in, find the professors, kind of make a list and just keep bothering them until you land the position. Like I'm kind of in a similar situation right now where I'm looking, because I have to do a Master of Engineering, like a mensch project. I don't have to do, but I want to do it. And I want to do this in computer science. And I recently, so I kind of had my research already I found a professor and I thought I settled, but then I talked to someone who does told me that that project is a big part of what we're doing in the future. So I have to be like, to do something that I would want to do in the future. And then I realized I want to kind of switch out. So now again, I'm in the stage again of like looking for a professor and doing the same thing. Mm. But in general, I would say because this is probably a lot of you will do research and it usually starts around like sophomore or junior year. So that might not be something that's relevant to you now, but if at any point you feel like you want to do research or you have any kind of questions, feel free to reach out to me. Just email me. Yeah, just use my Cornell email. I'll type it in the chat, and you can always ask me questions.
Great, thanks so much, Rizzo. That was really helpful. Definitely, I did not know how students get research jobs. That's awesome. Makes a lot of sense. So we've only got a few more minutes left. Do our other panelists have any closing words they want to say or anything before we end?
There's a question about research projects outside Cornell. If there are there any restrictions for international students? So I guess if I'm assuming like research projects outside Cornell, maybe with a partner from the community in Tompkins County, and I would say that there are no restrictions. Maybe if it involves pay, you would probably just double check with the employer, but otherwise there shouldn't be any restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say like it's kind of tricky. It's kind of tricky when it comes to working or doing research outside of Cornell, because again, like your visa doesn't really allow you to do that, like to get paid for a job that is not on campus. So when I was looking for things to do over the summer, I actually applied to like a bunch of random stuff to do research. Well, that was like other than my main research, just for the summer. They have a thing called like SCU. I don't remember what it stands for. It's basically you just do research. You go to another institution for the summer and you just do research there, just to gain experience and stuff. Most of the REU, my bad, not SCU, REU. Most of those things are NSF funded, which is National Science Foundation. From my personal experience, if it's NSF, if you see the word NSF, like, you're not eligible usually, because anything NSF funded, you have to be either a citizen or I think at least a resident. So which doesn't apply to like most people here. So I would say it's much easier to do research on campus than it is to do it somewhere outside of Cornell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can answer Liberty's question about like the useful resources.
Oh, thank you.
I think for resources that they need for the course, I think when I start a new course, like at the beginning of the semester and look at the syllabus for like the new courses that I'm taking, I think it's very normal to feel like a little bit confused about the sources do I actually need, and yeah, where do I find the resources and all this. I think that one advice is definitely to wait if you can a little bit with getting as long as it doesn't say like that you need, like professor has like some sort of deadline that you need to have this by a certain day, that you can wait a little bit to see, perhaps you might be able to get a book that's like a textbook that's a little bit cheaper, like somewhere else than what the professor has written down. Or and I think another way to find the good resource for the course is just to ask students who've taken the courses before, what did you really use for the course, and what, like, were the tests like very textbook heavy? Were the tests very textbook heavy, or was it very lecture? And I think the first few weeks is always a little bit adjustment to each individual course, how much one resource you might use, like textbook, or
Great, thanks. Yeah, textbooks is something you'll all be finding out soon. Well, we're just about out of time. I want to thank our panelists for their time and their insights. It was really wonderful speaking with all of you. Thank you to all the participants for offering your great questions. There'll be plenty of opportunities for more Q&A throughout today and tomorrow and next week. I'm going to turn this over back to Brandon to talk about what's next for you guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, thank you, everyone. That was fantastic. I hope that was helpful. If we could give some applause for our panelists, everyone. Thank you. Well done. Well done. We are going to transition just real quick to talk about tomorrow and what our schedule is going to be. And then we'll be moving into our peer mentor session. So for tomorrow, and again, you can find this online on our prepare page on the Office of Global Learning International Services website. We're going to be going at the same time, so 8:30 to 10:30 Ithaca time, so Eastern time. We're going to have just right at the beginning a brief check-in, just to be able to make sure we're all on the same page of what we have for tomorrow. We'll also be talking a bit more about next week. Then we're going to hear from Cornell Health Services with a presentation from them. After that, we'll be talking about campus safety with the Cornell Police. So another, external unit from the Office of Global Learning to come in and speak with their expertise. And then we're going to hear from the Intergroup Dialogue Program for an hour, and that'll be a group activity They do a lot of work around campus with students, things related to identity and having conversations about identity. Really important topic at Cornell and across the United States, especially in the last year, but ongoing, specifically at universities. So we'll have a full 2 hours tomorrow with an opportunity again to learn and then to interact. What we're going to be doing right now then is moving to our peer mentor sessions. This will give everyone a chance to break out into smaller groups, and similar to what we were just doing right now, have a chance just to ask questions and hear from our mentors, students that have been with Cornell for some time and can provide some insight and expertise. We already sent, I believe, people a list of prompts, both to students and volunteers, and we can go ahead and we'll probably send that again out to everyone, so that if there's ever a chance, a time where you're not sure maybe what question to ask, you have some ideas there that you can pull from. We're going to automatically split everyone into groups. And so you don't need to worry about that. So both our mentors and our participants will be automatically split up into groups. We are going to stop recording. So for anyone that's watching this recording, I hope this has been helpful for you. But now that we'll be breaking into smaller groups, we want to give students a chance to kind of speak a bit more, confidentially, and just ask